everyone, and welcome to the Debrief on ABC News Live. I'm Kimberly Brooks. Thanks so much for joining us. We have the latest on Tropical Storm Dorian approaching Puerto Rico. Plus, we have the latest on those raging fires burning in the Amazon rainforest. And did you watch the VMAs? We're going to give you a recap on the red carpet. But first, here are your headlines.
Women who say they were victims of accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein getting a chance to speak in court in a hearing today.
We know that some of the victims will seek to encourage the government to keep the investigation going, to hold accountable any enablers or co-conspirators that they may have evidence against.
2 kids are dead and 10 more people are hurt after a police chase in Dayton.
Police say a suspect crashed a police cruiser. Officers say the suspect hit a tree while driving a truck and fled the scene in the stolen police car before crashing into several other vehicles. We know at least 10 people were taken to area hospitals. Several children are among the injured. That suspect is now in custody. Baseball legend David Ortiz out of the hospital, hiring private investigators trying to find answers after that shooting that nearly killed him.
The fame of the 3-time World Series champion and his lavish, flashy lifestyle, fueling salacious headlines in Dominican tabloids, suggesting the motive for the shooting had more to do with jealousy or scandalous romantic riffs, claims his spokesperson denies. His spokesman telling ABC News Ortiz has no enemies in the country and is interested in finding out what really happened.
We begin in Puerto Rico, not fully recovered from the devastation of Hurricane Maria and now bracing for another storm brewing in the Caribbean. Tropical Storm Dorian continuing to gain strength to become a hurricane. And Victor Oquendo is on the ground in San Juan. Victor?
Kimberly, Puerto Rico's governor declaring that state of emergency, but insisting they are better prepared than in 2017 when Maria devastated the island. It's been 2 years and this building behind me still undergoing repairs. The time to prepare quickly running out here in San Juan. People stocking up on supplies, not taking any chances. The new governor, Wanda Vazquez, saying she's been in touch with the White House and FEMA's representative on the island, helping coordinate response efforts. This time around, they have better communication equipment, stronger infrastructure, more shelters and supplies. Help from the mainland already on the way, more than 200 firefighters from Miami helping down to the Caribbean to assist. Schools will be closing this afternoon as Dorian approaches. 2 major concerns, Puerto Rico's weak power grid and the tens of thousands who still live under those blue tarps that act as roofs. Kimberly?
All right, Victor, and to get the latest on this storm track, here's Ginger Z.
Kimberly, thank you. We are tracking Tropical Storm Dorian, which started to relax in winds overnight. It was fighting some dry air. It got max sustained winds this morning of 50 miles per hour. But no matter what it becomes, if it does become a low-end hurricane or a tropical storm, there are a lot of things we need to be watching for going into the next couple of days. So it's really the next 24 to 48 hours that will impact Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. As this current track tries to thread it between the two, the more land it interacts with, the worse off the storm's going to be, the better off people are going to be. But it could still produce up to 6 inches of rain and certainly gusts to 70 miles per hour. What I want you to focus on is the red line to the red line, because that is the cone of possibility. It's not just that center line, even though that is the center of the current track, but watching the impacts potentially to the Bahamas going into the weekend, especially the farther south it sinks, and then eventually Florida. A lot of this is going to be dependent on the driving factors of that high pressure system you'll see come up on this map here. So right now, a lot of the models are trying to take it kind of into the central east coast of Florida, so perhaps Melbourne by, say, Sunday into Monday. That's when you'd really start to feel impacts by Saturday night. I think a lot of people going in through the holiday weekend are saying, oh, no, this is not good. Well, if I showed you where these spaghetti plots go after this, there is a possibility it crosses Florida and goes into the Gulf, something we're going to have to wait, watch, and see. Kimberly?
All right, Ginger, and we'll obviously keep you all updated on that storm. And now we turn to Oklahoma for nothing short of a bombshell. A judge there handing down a landmark decision and ordering Johnson & Johnson to pay in excess of $572 million. Why? Because of the company's part in a lawsuit about the spread of the opioid epidemic in the state. So I want to bring in Nicholas Terry, a law professor and host of the podcast, The Week in Health Law. So Nicholas, thanks for being with us today. You know, you were talking about this whole situation in your latest episode. So let's just get into why these companies are being blamed in the first place.
Well, our states and as many as 2,000 of our cities, counties, and tribal nations have argued that the opioid manufacturers and distributors have engaged in deceptive marketing of the drug, such as telling doctors they weren't addictive, and also alleging that they failed to report very large and suspicious orders.
All right, so, you know, the judgment came down. So what does this mean for these companies now that they've been blamed for this?
Well, obviously, this particular case is going to be appealed. You can guarantee that. And I think there are some weaknesses in the judgment that could even lead to it being overturned. But there are many other cases in other states that are going to come to trial. And many of those state laws will not be as bad for the drug companies as the law in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and so Oklahoma is a state that's obviously been ravaged by this epidemic. What was, you know, people's response to these companies being blamed for this?
Well, I think everybody recognizes that the pharmaceutical companies had a role in this and that large checks must and will be written. We're haggling over just how large these checks will be. And of course, there's always a political dimension. Whether the states will get the money or will it go to the smaller entities like cities and counties that are also suing the pharmaceutical companies in federal court in Cleveland.
Yeah, and just curious, how have Johnson & Johnson or executives there responded to this case?
Well, they have fought this case very, very hard from the very beginning. There were two other large drug companies that were named in the Oklahoma case, and they settled before the trial began. But Johnson & Johnson have taken a very hard stance on this, and I expect them to continue to do so.
All right, so Nicholas, what happens next from here? Where do we go from here?
Well, we eventually will get a settlement, either in Cleveland or with the states or both. And we eventually will get about $100 billion or so, which after attorney's fees, some of which will go to the communities that have been harmed. But overall, unless we take a very different approach to poverty and the criminalization of addictions and a healthcare system that has inadequate treatment and recovery systems, we're really just marking time until the next addictions crisis.
All right, Nicholas Terry, law professor at Indiana University and host of the podcast, The Week in Health Law. Thank you for being with us today with the updates. We appreciate it. And guys, we move to politics, where the president softened his tone in the final day of the G7 summit, saying he was open to meeting with the Iranian president and sounding more optimistic about this ongoing trade war in China and how it will play out. So I want to bring in Karen Travers at the White House. Karen, good to see you. What accounts for the president's softer tone?
Well, I think the president was hearing from other world leaders over the weekend on the global economy, and there are a lot of concerns about a slowdown in growth. So I think that that's a big reason for the president's mixed messages over the last few days about the ongoing trade war with China. Remember, the president started off the G7 summit by saying that he had second thoughts about that latest escalation in tariffs, but the White House insisted it wasn't because he wanted to pull them back, it's that he didn't go far enough. Still, the president, I think, was hearing from other world leaders who were very vocal in blaming the trade war for being a big reason behind this global slowdown right now. The president's certainly getting an earful, but insisting that behind the scenes there were no disagreements. Everybody was getting along great, and it was a successful summit. Now, on Iran, the president said that under the right conditions, he would consider sitting down with Iran's president, Rouhani. He had a surprise this weekend at the G7, Kimberly, when the foreign minister from Iran was invited to attend, kind of working some European allies there. But a little bit of cold water today thrown on the potential for a meeting by Rouhani, who says he's not going to do a photo op with the president, who'll only sit down with him if there's something substantial done on sanctions. They want to see relief from the sanctions that the United States has put on Iran recently.
Yeah, always surprises at this summit. So now the president is suggesting that the next location, the next summit, be at his luxury golf resort in Florida.
He is, and he was highlighting the fact that it's very close to the airport, so it would be very easy for world leaders to land in Miami and just travel a few minutes to get to his golf club there outside the city. I think that was in part because the president didn't seem to be happy about the travel he had to do to get to Biarritz in France. He had to change planes once he landed, so I think he was trying to make a big selling point for his own golf course because of the location. This morning on Twitter, as you see right there, the president says there are no bed bugs at Doral. The fact that we're even talking about this. Wow. The president tweets something to 60 million people, puts it in the headlines, and has everybody Googling then, bed bugs at the president's golf club. If you do that, you will find articles that have looked at some health violations in recent years. The president says this is all made up. There is documentation of this, but certainly not the president's favorite headline, I think, heading into this big sales pitch he's going to make to have that summit there. But again, it's not fake news. You can Google it and find some reports.
Yeah, lots of things all over the place. So I'm very curious what people were asking about in your radio calls. What were they focused on?
I think the big thing that people were interested in is this potential simmering of tensions with Iran. It was just 2 months ago. I had to check the dates on that to make sure. But 2 months ago when Iran shot down that U.S. drone and the president ordered airstrikes, which he canceled at the last minute. Tensions have been simmering, though, since then. And now the president says maybe he'll sit down with President Rouhani. Kimberly, we've talked about these before. He likes these photo ops. He likes these made-for-TV moments, as we've seen with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Striking then to see President Rouhani say he is not going to be just a part of a presidential photo op unless he gets something in return.
All right, Karen Travers at the White House. Good to see you. Thank you so much. And we know before the G7 summit wrapped, the nations pledged $20 million to help fight those flames in the Amazon, and an additional $12 million was pledged from Britain and $11 million from Canada, a pledge that came despite tensions between Europe and Brazilian President Bolsonaro, who says these rich countries treat his region like a colony. Either way, the situation is dire as there have been over 80,000 fires this year, and our Matt Gutman is right there with the latest. Matt?
Hey, Kimberly, the ferocity of those fires that we saw is pretty incredible. They move with terrifying speed, and especially in this area, those palm trees and the dry trees in this area go up like matchsticks, and you can see those palm trees pretty much exploding when the fire reaches the crowns. That's where all that oil is. Now, we saw that farmer in his land. He basically hunkered down, trying to make sure that his cattle had somewhere to come back to. Now, one thing he did so well is clear that brush, but we weren't going to stay around and wait to see if that brush clearance had worked at his farm. We had to get out of there, and for a while there, it was pretty harrowing.
That fire exploding through those palms, roaring towards us.
It's shocking how fast we've seen this fire march. It's moved about 200 yards in the past 5 minutes alone.
The heat and the embers whipping by, beating us back. We arrived there just minutes earlier, seeing that column of smoke rising above this man's farm, the fire all around. He said his name is Geronimo, and he was worried he'd lose it all.
There's nothing that can be done with this fire. It's going to consume this farm.
This is just one of tens of thousands of fires burning in Brazil and Bolivia right now. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth, producing 20% of the world's oxygen, burning at a record rate. On Monday, G7 nations collectively pledged $40 million to help save the Amazon. But many say it isn't nearly enough. Overnight, protesters across Brazil begging for the world's help. But Brazilian officials saying overnight they'll reject the offer. Facing international criticism, it hasn't done enough. Brazil this week began to deploy 44,000 troops and these C-130 water tankers. But in so many places, more is needed. At that farm, that fire whirling closer. We offered Geronimo a ride out, but he said he would wait for his cattle. The fire pushing us back.
Wow, that entire farm where we were just minutes ago seems to be gone.
At one point, it seemed we were cornered by fire.
Keep going, keep going.
Geronimo's ranch encased in fire and smoke. Minutes later, we drove back in to see if he'd survived.
Now it's a hellscape.
And there he was.
Está bien?
And those cows, just like he said, they came home.
Now, that farmer did tell us that a couple of tankers had dropped a little bit of water, but didn't make a dent at all. And it gives you the sense that no amount of firefighting, no amount of support or external assistance from G7 countries or anyone is really going to make much of a difference here. The only thing that can is Mother Nature. And overnight, for the first time in apparently 2 months or so, it rained here, providing a much-needed break in this area. And, you know, the soil completely changed. It was dry, it was ashen, now it's muddy, and you can tell that it really dampened the fires here. So one big rain can make a difference. The problem is the rainy season is still technically a couple of months off. That is going to be the only thing that can actually quell these fires. People can't wait for it to come soon enough. Now, just an end note about that farmer. He was okay. His cattle did come back just as he's promised us that they would. And he said he's going to stick it out. He said that after those rains come, the grass will grow again. His cattle will have something to feed on. And he says he'll be okay. Kimberly.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, a lot of optimism there, but happy you were safe in those fires. Thank you for the updates. And guys, now we're going to focus on the number 19 because that's the number bouncing around after the U.S. Open yesterday, because that's the number of times superstar tennis champ Serena Williams has defeated Maria Sharapova, 19 straight times. And yesterday, Serena crushed her. Maybe an even bigger moment given last year's match with Serena against Naomi Osaka. So I want to bring in ESPN's Darren Cahill. Darren, good to see you. Thanks for being with us today. You know, you've seen Serena play many times, and there's a lot of energy that was going on in that court last night, but many people were concerned about her injuries, yes?
Yeah, for sure, Kimberly. 23,000 people packed into Ash Stadium last night to see Serena's return from 12 months ago, and just so wonderful to see Serena get into the court, have those goosebumps and get the reaction from the crowd that she got, and she let her racket do the talking. On paper, it was a tough matchup against Sharapova, but in reality, it's been a fairly comfortable matchup because Serena has won so many times, as you said, 19 times in a row now, and she loves the way that Maria plays, her style of game, and Serena's just a little bit better in every department of the game. And I thought Serena played her A game. If she plays like that through the tournament, she's going to be incredibly tough to beat. But great for Serena to come out, play the way she did, but also get that wonderful reaction from the crowd.
Absolutely. And then her win, it came on the same day as the unveiling of the Althea Gibson statue, which is pretty iconic, no?
Yeah, a couple of great ladies that have done so much good for the game and continue to do so much good. And it's not just those two as well. Her sister Venus played yesterday. Venus has also been really instrumental in the WTA Tour, fighting for equal rights, equal prize money. And Venus played incredibly well yesterday as well. And there are other ladies as well. We've got a couple in Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova and Billie Jean King, all ladies that are still involved in the game of tennis, pushing for the rights and for this new generation of player. And that's why they're playing for the money they are playing here at the Grand Slams. They've done an incredible effort. It was a great day for women's tennis.
And then before we go, Coco Gauff playing today, teen sensation.
Yeah, it's a new generation coming through. Coco, just 15 years of age, and has done so much in the game already with that great run that she had at Wimbledon, eventually losing to Simona Halep in the 4th round. So we got a glimpse of what the future is like, and the young girl that she's playing, Potapova, is also a world #1 junior. She's a very good player as well. So Coco will have her hands full in her 1st round match here, but the future is bright on the WTA. And also on the men's side as well, we've got a new generation of men's player coming through, and they're trying to break through that big stranglehold the big three have had in Djokovic, Federer and Nadal, and a lot of names coming through that we're hoping they can break through and possibly win this tournament. So great storylines on both the women's and the men's side. We're looking forward to a great tournament.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and you're right there. Thank you so much, Darren Cahill with ESPN. Thank you so much. And guys, is it just me, or does it feel like all the news is sort of weighing us down a bit? It's a bit heavy, so much so that you might be in need of a little vacay. So Labor Day is approaching, and if you don't have it all figured out, not to worry, because Rizwana Bashir is going to help us out. You are the CEO and founder of Peak.com, and I'm so glad you're here because you have a site that helps people curate an unforgettable trip, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
We help people book great things to do, so activities and experiences.
Yes, like a travel guru you are. Yeah, so this is the thing. Labor Day is right around the corner, and I think some people may have procrastinated on making their plans. So I want you to give us tips on the staycation. Like, what can people do to make their stay at home feel nice and like a good vacation?
Yeah, well, about half of America is into staycations now, so you're not going to be alone. And if you're last minute, I would say look for great things to do in your home city. So on a staycation, maybe you love cooking. There are amazing, in New York, for example, you can learn how to make croissants, you can do pizza making classes, you can go on great tours. You know, there's an amazing subway tour where you can learn about the history of the subway in Grand Central. So depending on your passion, go and figure out great activities, because there's awesome things to be going on right now. Also, it's not too late to start going on a trip. So if you want to go to Chicago or Mexico City, they're actually pretty inexpensive flights to get you there from most parts of the country. And there's really incredible things to do there as well. So in Chicago, you can go and hang out by the beach in Lake Michigan and take a swim and enjoy the last of the summer. And actually in Mexico City, they have an incredible food scene. So there's incredible food tours and an opportunity to do some sightseeing there as well.
I like that. I like that. And you have another term that I've heard you use before. Is it bleisure?
Yeah, business leisure.
Business leisure. So you mix it together, you say bleisure. So what does that mean?
So basically, that's the idea that, you know, we all have opportunities to do work trips. And a lot of Americans are doing that. And so why not add a day or two to investigate the city, have fun, enjoy getting to know somewhere new? And so bleisure is really just this opportunity we have to mix business and leisure on trips that you have. And that's one of the things that Peak's great at, is helping you add on a few experiences for the extra day or two that you might have in a city you don't know as well.
Yeah, your site's really amazing, but this is what I want to ask, because since you're telling us about what plans to make, I want to hear what your plans are. You know, what does the guru do?
Well, you know, the really funny thing about this is that you guys haven't figured out what I want to do this weekend yet.
Nice.
And so one thing that people don't realize is that actually most of us plan pretty last minute.
Yes, I do.
It's super spontaneous. And so actually for me, I may do one of the things we just mentioned, and I've been thinking that through. But most people, especially millennials, are not booking in advance. About 50% of the bookings on our platform happen last minute. And we've got hundreds of millions of dollars of bookings happening.
Wow.
So they're happening within the last 24 hours. So I think the days when people used to plan vacations, you know, months in advance are gone. And actually, most of us are doing things pretty last minute now.
Okay, so we're not alone.
So I'm just like you.
We're not alone. Rizwana Bashir is doing it also, so we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Okay, from Peak.com, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. And guys, last night was the MTV Video Music Awards in Newark, New Jersey. I'm not sure if you checked them out. I really hope you do. You did, because our team was there on the red carpet. It was epic, and as you can imagine, lots of show-stopping fashion, lots of skin showing last night, and all of your favorite stars, from Lenny Kravitz to Lizzo. Taylor Swift won Video of the Year and Video for Good, and Lil Nas X blowing up the stage and taking home the award for Song of the Year. And of course, lots of love and respect for Missy Misdemeanor Elliott and her Vanguard Award. So much fun. So, you know, last week I sat down with mega producer Tiny ahead of the show, and he was one of the first ones that I saw on the carpet last night. So take a look. Okay, guys, tonight's the night. We made it. How are you feeling?
Amazing. It's just an amazing feeling. We finally got here, so just to be here is something crazy.
Are you okay under there? Are you breathing okay? Do you need some water, some snacks?
Y de ser empezamos, otro chance nos damos los dos. Mejor dejemos la estupidez, que el amor llega solo una vez de ser otro chance nos damos los dos. Mejor dejemos la estupidez, que el amor llega solo una vez.
Beautiful, guys.
Thank you. It's an honor that this thing's in Newark, because we know how much we fight for the city since kids to get people to recognize, you know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing.
Diplo, tell me about this suit. It's awesome.
This is my girls, FT Lonesome made it from Austin, Texas, one of a kind.
Yes. What do you think of it being in Jersey? You're doing the tribute at the end. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
I'm feeling great. I'm a Jersey native. I'm from Jersey, so I'm going to hold it down for Jersey, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. What can we expect in this performance? I saw that.
Yeah, I did that?
Yeah, I saw that.
A lot of greatness.
We want to see Missy.
Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it.
She getting her award tonight. She deserve it. She put in work for years, and she from my era. So it's a privilege to see someone from my era do it and get that Vanguard Award, because that Vanguard Award is something. I wish I was getting the Vanguard Award. God.
Got it. What do you think of it being in New Jersey?
I'm so excited about it being home, aka Jersey. God bless us, rocking. We rocking this show tonight. Gotta go. Yes.
So much fun, and shout out to Angela and Ashley, the producers that I was with. It was such an incredible time, but I must say the real winners of the night were the loyal fans. They kept the energy going from the red carpet all the way into the show, so kudos to them for being so loyal. And guys, before we go, you're probably sipping on some coffee right now, or you will be doing that at some point during the day. But the most important question is, what is the flavor of your coffee? If it's not pumpkin spice, what are you even doing? Because the pumpkin spice latte has returned, and Romina Puga is right there in Hollywood, California with the goods. Romina, PSL in your hand there, yes?
It is, and this is actually my first PSL, if you can believe it. But yes, they are back a whole month before fall even starts. This is everyone's favorite fall drink. It's Starbucks' best-selling seasonal drink. They created this 16 years ago. They just wanted a new hit drink, had no idea the success that pumpkin spice, the flavor would have, where there's even, if you can believe this, a pumpkin spice Spam coming out this year. There's pumpkin spice dog treats, Jell-O, even protein powder. Kim, this looks delicious, but I don't know if I would eat a Spam version of this. Would you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Have you tried it, though? This is your first one. Are you going to try it, or have you tried it?
I'm going to. But before I do, they created this 16 years ago, and they just created this, the pumpkin cream cold brew this year. It's coming out first time they've done a pumpkin drink since the pumpkin spice latte. And it's basically a cold brew with pumpkin cream on it. So I think I'm gonna double dip. I'll let you know which is better. But this is a cold brew for us Californians that have nice warm falls. So I don't know if you'll want this, Kim.
What do you think?
That's pretty good.
That's good?
This is pretty good. This is refreshing. This one's just gonna end up all over my nose. Yeah.
Good?
It tastes like dessert.
Oh my goodness.
And like Thanksgiving, yeah.
What do you think it is about pumpkin spice that people are so crazy about?
So, I definitely have whipped cream on my face.
You look good.
So a food researcher said that it's two things. It's seasonality and nostalgia. Part of it is the limited time availability of it, where as soon as it hits the market, people want to come get their pumpkin spice latte for the year because they know they're not going to get it in spring. And then there's the nostalgia of this is a drink you had every year, and it signifies fall and leaves changing and the holidays, and who doesn't love all of that, all of those warm feelings?
All right, Romina, guess what? I have one in my hand too, so can we do a cheers together? Are you? Oh, you're already drinking yours. Cheers to you. See you soon. Thank you.
Happy fall.
Happy day. Happy Tuesday. All right, guys, continue to take care of yourselves. And if you're around, you can stick around for the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. And then you can check out World News Prime at 8 p.m. And if you want to stay updated on all of these headlines, you can go to abcnews.com or download the app. I'm Kimberly Brooks, and I'll see you tomorrow.